Morning Coffee at the Bowl with Ray from Murder Van. We're going to talk about skateboarding and, just metal and thrash music, punk, for sure. And so, Ray, welcome.
Be here.
Yes. I see you brought something here with you. And first thing I noticed, are those OJ slime balls?
Yes, they are.
They're not?
They're repop ones.
They're repop? Because I was like looking at them, I was going, wait a minute. And I was like, yes, dude. Those were my, what are those, 60s?
Yeah, you're talking about the wheelbase. The wheel width.
The wheel width.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Don't even know.
I just wanted it to look cool on this old school setup.
And I loved those wheels, the shape of them, and just the way they were. We'll get to that in a second.
Right.
So let's talk about early life. What first brought you into not even a skate park, but just to a skateboard? And what attracted you to it?
Let's see. I grew up in Chicago, and we did not have a lot of skaters over there, and this is like, I started skating like in the 80s, like I'd say mid 80s, 86.
Yeah.
I started getting into it, and for some reason I was really attracted to everything from California, things that were happening, because I was into skateboarding and like freestyle bicycles and stuff.
Yes.
And
I think at that age, I'm not sure exactly how old you are. I'm 43. So in like 85, 86, I'm like 8 or so.
Right.
and that's kind of what it was. It was like BMX bikes. The movie Rad came out. It was just totally cool.
86.
It was like, but like the BMX tracks, and we had tracks all through the woods, and it was just that kind of stuff. So, and then we maybe had like a little ramp into the grass or whatever. And it was just more like daredevil stuff that led me into the skateboarding than more so than necessarily the skateboarding, because I didn't really know what it was. I was like, oh, we can take this thing and like,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember, well, honestly, it was really punk rock first for me.
Okay.
I first heard punk rock music like on college radio in Chicago. I think one of the earliest punk bands I even heard was Adrenaline OD. You know AOD?
Okay.
Like really fast punk. And then I got into Misfits and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed that, like, hey man, skateboarders are like, they all listen to this music too. So it kind of was together, the punk and the skateboarding. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I had to do both. That was what you did. That's what you did. And then I actually branched off into metal. So, but for me, it was punk first and skateboarding, and then metal.
So like the more like, I'm not even like, I can't say obscure, because it was like in the skateboarding magazines they talk about those type of punk bands, but not necessarily like in the mainstream music that you heard out there. So like for myself, it was more like, okay, I know who Metallica is, I know who Megadeth is, I know who all that kind of stuff is. And then maybe Anthrax was like the track to thrash, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then I go, oh, wait a minute. And people started playing some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because Anthrax was kind of on the edge of like, we're big and hard metal, but then we're also kind of like thrash and,
Yeah, they were hinting into crossover, especially with like, they had that rap song. They had that rap metal song, you know what I'm talking about? The Knot. Knot. What was the name of that song?
Oh man, I know Public Enemy.
I'm the Man.
Did it.
I'm the Man.
Oh no, the I'm the Man song, not the one they did with Public Enemy.
Before Public Enemy, they did the rap tune.
Yes.
And they had like, I had their T-shirt, and it had like the Knot Man on. He was riding a skateboard, and I was like, oh, skaters must like the Anthrax too. So.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my first step into thrash. Them and early Metallica.
Yeah.
It really branched from the punk into that. I actually heard punk before I heard Metallica. I knew who they were because all the metalheads in middle school, they had like the Anthrax and Metallica T-shirts, Iron Maiden. So like in '89 is when I moved to Georgia. I moved to Kennesaw, Georgia, and I didn't know anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of like pulled into myself because I was like going to be. I'm actually pretty introverted. Like I'm pretty shy. It takes a long time for me to like get to talking to people. So what I did was I skated a lot, and like that's when I really progressed. So I was like 14 or 15 and 89.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, and that summer that I moved here, didn't know anybody. We just moved in this house, so I skated every day.
Yeah.
And in my garage there, like I taught myself how to ollie higher, and then like try to do kick flips and heel flips and shove-its and all that stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and then I met a couple of kids in the neighborhood, and we were like, I was like, man, this place has so many hills. I never like the.
So you weren't into hill bobbing?
There was no hills in Chicago.
Chicago's flat.
Yeah, we had no hills. We had a couple parking decks, and that's the
Yeah.
only time we could do that.
Yeah.
We could go like when I was a little kid. We actually would take big 55-gallon trash bags,
Uh-huh.
and it was windy enough to like sail. So like we just hold that up, and that's how I went fast.
Wow.
Back then, it was either that or hold on to the back of a car, which I did.
Sketching cars, yeah. We used to do that in downtown Atlanta on buses and stuff, but like that's kind of scary in Atlanta streets.
Oh yeah, it's bumpy.
It's bumpy and well, especially now, but yeah, that's kind of crazy for sure. But like I can remember also doing that in NYC, sketching cabs and sketching
Yeah,
buses.
it's probably maybe easier. I don't know.
It's easier because it's also kind of flat there,
Flat, straighter.
and straight, and more predictable. But
Yeah, you got a stoplight at every
Yeah.
block, so
but not very recommendable. You know,
Right.
Atlanta, they're not looking out for anything.
right.
So you came to Kennesaw. What middle school did you end up going to over?
I went straight into high school. So
Straight to high school.
Yeah, it was North Cobb High School.
North Cobb High School. I just passed that yesterday, actually. The backside of it. I went to the Swiss Cantrell's, or the
The skate park.
park
That
over
was-
there.
That was a
And then-
cow field when I was going to school there, and we'd pass that. I would never have dreamed to have something like that there. And back then, I mean, it was either build your own ramp, or you've never, like, I never even skated a ramp until I moved here. I skated one ramp in Chicago, and we drove, I live 10 miles from downtown, so like 10 miles from the heart of Chicago. We drove to Hoffman Estates, which was kind of far. I think it was like 40 minutes, like outside of the city. And actually, Screeching Weasel, I think, is from there. It's from Hoffman Estates.
No
We
way.
drove way out there, and they had a launch ramp.
Oh.
And I had like an Iron Maiden skateboard, which was like from the flea market. So it was like
Yes.
terrible. It's like plastic trucks, plastic wheels, slid everywhere. I like went up and fell, and like everybody made fun of me.
So you had to upgrade.
Yeah, I finally upgraded it like right before I moved. The summer before I moved here, I think it was '88.
So was that your first board?
My first real skateboard was a Mike McGill.
The Mike McGill.
Mike McGill. I had OJ wheels, and I think I had independent trucks. And I ordered it from CCS, I think.
Wow.
Back then.
Wow.
Like, I didn't like the skate shop. There was no skate shop
No.
close in downtown. There was like one. I had to go to the bike shop to get skateboard parts.
See, we lucked out and had it wasn't necessarily a skate shop. They had a skate corner, but what it was is it was a surf shop. I know, a surf shop in Roswell, Georgia,
Right.
but it was...
Does it go with the flow?
Yeah, it was go with the flow, and they had more like paddles and canoeings and kayaks. But go with the flow, yeah. And they used to sponsor events, and it was cool. They had, we'd go there and get all the videos. So yeah, so I guess and actually there was another place called BC. So it was kind of coming up, and then of course downtown you could always go to Stratosphere.
Stratosphere.
But yeah.
And then until Ruin came along, which I actually, Ian was a good friend of mine in high school. I met him at the mall, and we'd skate and stuff, and like we were just in high school, so.
Really? So you went to high school with him?
I did not go to high school with him, but
You knew of it?
I met him at Town Center Mall, like in 1990, maybe 91.
Wow, see, because probably maybe around the 94 to 95 era is when I met him, skating some of the things out in Cobb.
Yeah.
And then it was some few years later he ends up opening Ruin, but the first location that I remember was on Roswell Road. in Sandy Springs, and then I know that he probably moved it maybe at least a couple times.
I think I remember the one move. I think he did move it twice though. I think he moved. He like moved in one place after the Sandy Springs area.
Yeah.
He was there by the Punchline. He was there for many years, and then he moved once closer to Brook Run area over here, and then again moved. But I think, don't quote me on that, but it was just close by, like in the same neighborhood. I remember going to Waffle House with him, and he's like, "Man, I think I'm going to start a skate shop, man." And I'm like, "Awesome!"
Wow. You know what? Kudos to him, because I don't know how old he is, but I guess we're probably around the same age.
Yeah.
Should have had the cojones to think of something like that and you go with it at that age as well.
He had a long run. Compared to some other shops, like I was buddy with, I don't know if you ever met Corey Dreyfus. He had a shop called Snafu. He was in Woodstock. And then for a long time, he had Ambush in Kennesaw.
I know Ambush.
Yeah.
I knew Ambush. Didn't they have a... Well, no. Ambush had the park, right?
They were pretty big. They had just the skate shop, though.
In the beginning on Canton Road.
Yeah.
And a 3-foot ramp.
They may have had ramp. You know that?
I remember that.
When I went to Ambush,
yes.
They didn't have that. But there was Skates and Bruises in Kennesaw. Do you remember that place?
I do not remember that.
That was like later 90s. And they had moved around a couple times. And they had that was like the first 8-foot half I skated was in that one.
Wow.
Except for, I guess I skated the one in Kona.
So let's backtrack up just a bit. When did you start playing guitars and bass and stuff?
I started playing guitar, actually, it was after skateboarding, but it was around the same time in Chicago in middle school. In elementary school, I played trumpet.
Really?
Yeah, I played trumpet.
So did I!
Yeah.
But I never, the teacher kicked me out because I never tried to learn any of the music.
Right.
I would draw 3 little dots and I'd make a little tab right there underneath it. And she's like, "You're not even reading this thing." I said, and I do the same thing with guitars now. People are like...
I don't have a lot of training either.
I just kind of know the tablature and I can look at it and play from that. But maybe I should have, and I do know, it's funny because I should just put the 2 and 2 together because I do know a little bit of music, but I don't ever put anything together with it.
I mean, I'm mostly self-taught. I did get a few lessons in Ken Stanton here when I was a teenager. So I started playing guitar around 12 years old. I was like, I don't want to play trumpet anymore. It's not cool. There's a lot of metal heads, and there was a few skaters and punk rockers, and I was like, I want to play bass is what I wanted to play first.
Really?
And I didn't. My parents wouldn't buy the bass that I wanted.
So what did they get you? Acoustic guitar?
My dad had an acoustic guitar, and I just taught myself how to play Iron Man on that thing. and then my buddy got a bass, and I was like, I want to play bass. I want to be like my buddy. He had the biggest mohawk, and that was it was really rare in Chicago in the 80s.
Yes.
And I was like, this is the coolest guy. My friend Gil, I was like, I want to be just like him,
Wow.
So I was like, I want to play bass. He had Exploited and Sex Pistols records. I was like, this guy's cool.
Yes.
He didn't really skate so much, but he was into punk.
Yes.
And then eventually my parents wouldn't give me the bass, and I was like, you know what? I should get a guitar, because if I had a guitar, he plays bass, we'd have a band. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna switch to guitar. They went to a pawn shop and got my first guitar, which was a Hondo. It was really, really inexpensive.
Wow.
I got that and a Fender amp, and I talked my buddy into being the drummer, and we made a band which we never even once practiced together. It was either me and the bass player together, we jam, or me and the drummer, we jam.
And nobody ever was able to get together?
Not all three, no.
Yes.
The first decent band I was in was a punk band called First Base Failures.
First Base Failures, okay.
I was out of Norcross.
Okay.
So I commuted from Woodstock to Norcross. My friend I was just skating with 30 minutes ago at Fowler, Mark Cuba, he's played bass.
Wow.
And I played guitar. We had Dan Darlington on drums. We had another guitar player. We called him Mitch. His name was Matt.
Okay.
And then we had a singer named Dave, and we played fast punk. I don't have any of that with me, but well, maybe I do on my phone. But we played fast punk. You can look it up. First Base Failures.
First Base Failures.
There might be a.
Around what year is this?
This is about 1997 when I started, 98 when we started playing shows. At the same time.
So were you playing like all the same? Okay, so like the points and like.
Never got to that level.
Okay, so were you playing like Somber Reptile?
I can't remember.
The Rec Room.
Rec Somber Reptile. I don't even remember if we played there. I remember playing Auburn, Alabama for some reason.
Okay.
A house show there.
Okay. House shows were big back in those days.
We played a lot. I think we played almost all house shows, and then one. There was one. One in Valdosta we played. It was a club. It was like in an office.
Sweet.
It was like in an office. That was like our big show. It was short-lived. Around the same time, the guitar player for Murder Man, Scraw Tharp, he had his longtime punk band in the Atlanta scene called Victim 9.
Okay.
And they were definitely playing like Rec Room and probably The Point and all those places.
Okay.
They were together a long time. They were really good.
The name?
Victim 9.
I mentioned those places because like that was probably like my introduction to punk rock.
Yeah.
And really, I can remember being, like maybe even middle school. Hey, I want to go to this place called the Rec Room. It's on Rec Room. And my parents are like, what? And they're like, okay, just get home by like 11. I'm like, the show didn't even really start. I'll be back.
Yeah. Those places could stay out late over there.
And
where Terminal West is now, in that area.
Yeah, and like somehow I'd end up in the show because they probably weren't supposed to let me in, but it was just a different day and age.
Yeah.
And but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of punk bands at Somber Reptile. I saw a few at Rec Room, but it was like phasing out, and Somber Reptile was phasing in.
Yeah.
Around the time that I like moved here, which was 89, like I'd say 90, 91, it was like transitioning into all the punk going to Somber Reptile. Yeah. So I remember I think I saw NoFX there play.
Yeah.
And all the Fat Records bands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it was like shows there, and then probably, I mean, there were other places, but there was places in Marietta. There were places in
the Strand, right?
The Strand, yeah. Yeah. And bands played on the downtown square. That was the Strand, actually. And, man, anyways, but yeah.
I used to skate there a lot. I'd like take CCT bus from Kennesaw to Marietta Square. And I met. That's how I started meeting a lot of skaters that didn't go to North Cobb.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I would do that as well, but I was like.
I may have skated with you at some point.
Maybe skated at some point. That's like the craziest thing because and skaters find their way. Which kind of takes me to now, like, people are like their home park, and they skate their one park, and they're really awesome at skating at their one park, which is fine, but, like, I remember back in the day, it was all about more like spot skating or finding where to go.
Yeah, because there wasn't really any parks to go to. Man, there was a couple of them here. There's some before, I think it was that one that was here before I even lived here. Everybody talks about downtown. I don't even know the name of it, downtown Atlanta somewhere. There was
well, they had
or maybe South Atlanta.
We had a couple do it yourself spots. We had the 40 yard.
I may have skated that.
Which was an old foundation to a building and concrete that people made. Like the foundations out of wood and threw in concrete.
I mean, DIYs are like the funnest for street stuff, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're just out on the street.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a few spots like that. You're playing guitar, you're riding your skateboards. How did your Murder Van, maybe you're going to back me up, but how did Murder Van end up on the skateboard for you?
Well, I am the only skater at Murder Van.
Okay.
Currently. But we were just making merch, and I'm actually friends with Ryan Taylor. You know Ryan Taylor.
Yeah.
Drifter. So, I was like, dude, we gotta have a skateboard tag in our merch.
Because I thought about that so many times. The thing was
it wasn't the cheapest thing to have, but I mean, this is a real. It's like manufactured in the USA. It's a real skateboard tag.
Yeah, manufactured.
Yeah, it's
locally,
Drifter,
right?
Yeah, Drifter. So and now he's even got higher end printing and equipment now.
Yeah.
I did this one like. Gosh, we've been a band for like maybe 1 year, and I was like, I gotta get it. You know, I did the T-shirts. And I had the graphics, so I was like, oh, I got to do a murder van day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've continuously stayed a 3-piece throughout the year. I mean, what are we, like 2018, March 2018?
You like it that way.
Is when we first started playing. We've gone through a lot of drummers, and actually, you know, I'll make the announcement now. We've never officially announced our newest drummer, but his name is Drew Verstrate, and
Drew Verstrate. There it is, people.
There it is.
Right here. He currently
lives in Rochester, New York, and we're making it work. He's also the drummer for Nuclear Assault, which I'm sure people have heard. Yeah, so right now we like practice at home on our own, and then if and when we have our next show, hopefully that's going to be November, we'll get together and rehearse. You know, a couple days before the show, and then play them out.
Yeah. Like I think COVID has kind of done that to some bands. You know, mine as well, and that you know, as soon as everybody gets back to town, if that happens, then we'll do it right here. Like I don't even have. These are my drums. These aren't my like a drummer's drums. You know, normally those are back in my closet here.
I just leave that open. Leave that up all the time.
But I'd like to play too. But I'm not that good. But
I'm the same way.
But I like to play them, so I was like, I'm gonna get it all out and play them.
Yeah.
You know, there you go, for sure. So, how long has you been as Murder Van? Did you start Murder Van?
Well, yeah. So Scraw.
Tell me the story.
Scraw first got together with his old drummer, Jared. That he was in Victim 9 together. Like they had been playing together since, you know, I think elementary or middle school, like of that long. So they just started getting back together, and he wanted to make a rock and roll band, like. I was going to be almost like AC/DC style rock and roll, and he needed a bass player. And he called me up and he's like, "Hey man, you want to play bass? We're going to do this rock and roll thing." And I'm like, "All right, let's give it a try." And I went over there for the first practice, and I started learning. So, and this is actually the first time I played bass.
Oh,
I never actually picked up bass. All these years since 12
But you've been playing guitar.
Been playing guitar.
So I kind of did the same thing.
So he's like, yeah, here's a bass, you know, and that was like a Warlock bass, and I'm like learning these rock tunes, and like halfway through jamming, I'm like, you know, me and him used to talk about doing a thrash metal band or a crossover band, one of those two kind of things, and we had jammed for a couple of years when I first moved from Canton to Sugar Hill, which was now almost 6 years ago now, you know, like 5.5. I first moved there, which was Gwinnett. It's my first time living in Gwinnett. He's always lived in Gwinnett, and we'd even been in a band together. We'd commute, you know, find somewhere in the middle, or I'd always be like driving out to Gwinnett. But anyway, I moved to Sugar Hill, and so I called him up. I was like, "Hey man, we should jam and maybe make a band." So we never got a band going. We would just jam guitars and write little licks and play thrash metal, and that fizzled out. And then, you know, around, I think it was like maybe late February 2018, he was like, "Hey man, do you want to start playing some music, you know, jamming out I got the drummer, you know, he's like right in Flowery Branch." So I was like, "Yeah man, let's do it." And then so we started playing these rock and roll tunes, and then halfway through practice I was like, "You know what?
Doesn't feel right.
Why don't we mess around with some of those thrash tunes we used to jam with for, you know, not too long ago." And we started playing a couple thrash tunes. It kind of just worked pretty quickly. And you know, after that jam session, it was like, we're just gonna do thrash metal. You know, I think we wrote a song like in that session, and then the next practice we wrote a song. Like we wrote the songs like all together, like right there and then we started putting some riffs together on our own. And Scraw mostly writes all that.
Wow.
Music. In fact, the new unreleased tracks.
That you guys will hear snippets, maybe.
It's unreleased, and I'm giving Kevin like the song, so maybe you guys will hear some of that unreleased music.
Yeah.
And that's with our new drummer. That's the Nuclear Assault guy, Drew, and And Scraw wrote all the tunes, so you got 4 songs that's all Scraw. I only wrote about 15% maybe of our demo, our first album, and then yeah, it's just like we did all this over COVID.
Or Drifter.
Yes, Drifter Skateboarding. Yeah, I already knew him, so I was like, hey man, what would it cost to make some skateboard decks?
Right.
And he's like, he's got basically
obviously has a minimum
flat rate, minimum for the deck, and then to get the graphic printed. This I think is actually a heat transfer.
There's been like 3 or 4 times that I thought for bands or for maybe even the show or for like a giveaway, I'm going, man, I need to make some boards.
I ended up
like, I need to do it.
I ended up giving one away. Like one of the decks we donated to a cause at one of the shows. One of the last shows we played in Atlanta. And yeah, I donated the deck, and all proceeds went to. It was actually for a gal that was having trouble at the time, but
wow,
medical problems and everything. So so yeah,
wow. All right, and so let's see that. Let me see the board here.
Check it out. Now the grip tape I just threw on there.
Yeah,
just in case I did an ollie. I actually did an ollie during a show.
Yeah,
we played. Are you familiar with Collins? Collins Campground, the Collins Compound, down in South Georgia. It's like over there near Perry.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, yeah, it's a Collins Compound. It's this dude that has a private skateboard in his backyard, and it's huge. I mean, it's like there's a vert ramp, there's a mini, which is still pretty big, and then there's a mini, an actual mini.
Wow.
And then he's even got a street section. I think he built an indoor half.
Wow.
But anyway, we played a show there.
Wow.
Like it was like a skate competition at his park.
Wow.
And it was outside, so I'm like in the grass. I'm like, you know what? I was playing. During the song, I did it all.
You got this. And you're like, all right, I got it.
Yeah. Somebody has footage somewhere. I think it might be on our Instagram or something.
I mean, this is a pristine setup right now. You got Going trucks, but he said these are aftermarket Going.
No, they're still making them. They're not aftermarket.
They still make them, but
they still make them. But I've only seen them for sale like this one shop on eBay. I can't remember the name of the shop. It's like shop. I mean, at home. I have a Vision punk skull. Are you familiar with the Vision streetwear? It was just all these skulls like mashed together.
Yes.
With a punk skull deck.
Yeah,
the nose is this long. Yeah, I have one of those.
Because I had the shoes.
Yeah, you could get
that were
shoe,
like Converse, but they were the Converse print.
Yeah.
They were the canvas. I keep saying Converse, but they were kind of like that. But they had the Vision Streetwear logo. They had the little the ollie pad, but then they had the little
skulls everywhere. That was called the punk skull. So yeah, they had an actual deck for that, and the nose this big, like, and the tail's like this long. It's crazy.
Wow.
It feels like a rocket ship,
Wow. So if people are listening to Murder Van, what should they expect? Like, what are they going to get blown away with? What should they...
They have... Our unreleased material, I think, is the more blow you away stuff. Our older stuff is... It's still... I think you're going to hear some Slayer in there.
Slayer?
And maybe some Death. Kind of, the influences, a lot of Slayer and Death in there. And you might hear some other old school thrash metal type of stuff. And a hint of crossover, like a hint of punk. Right. Now the stuff you're gonna hear, you get to hear it because you have the songs. So.
You guys will hear it firsthand.
That stuff, it's gonna be a lot bigger sound. I mean, we recorded at West End Studio.
Big sound, big. Yeah. Okay.
We actually used a lot of Mastodon's gear when we were recording, and
Brent.
Yeah, he showed up a couple times.
Okay, cool.
That's a whole other story.
Okay.
But
it was interesting because I actually just heard an NPR story of them talking about their studio. So.
Oh, the studio is fantastic.
I met Ray. I probably first on social media through music kind of things, and I said, "You skate?" And then I saw him a few times at the skate park, and then here he is, more incognito. We're talking about skateboarding. Two things that we just kind of grew up in a similar area. I'm originally from the Midwest. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Moved to Atlanta as a real little kid, but younger than he was. And so here it is. Skateboarding and all that. That's for sure. So Fowler Park. What do you like skating at Fowler?
That is my go-to home park now? Like you were talking about, everybody kind of has their home park.
I've been kind of like negative about it. Like, I'm not going to have a home park, but I think I might make a home park. And maybe I'll announce it at the end of this episode. We'll see.
I go to Fowler mainly because it's a midpoint for a couple of my other buddies that I skate with every Sunday, you know.
Okay.
And one of my buddies kind of getting sick of it. He's like a little burnt out on it. And I do like going to the other parks too. Mm-hmm. I love the one in Canton. Veterans, yeah, Cherokee Veterans. And I used to love going to Fourth Ward. In fact, Fourth Ward used to be my go-to. Mm-hmm. I'd go there all the time. Every week we go to Old Fourth Ward.
Wow.
And that was a little bit tougher, but when I was 38, so it's getting to be like 10 years ago, mm-hmm. is when I came off my skateboarding hiatus and like got back into it big time, mm-hmm. and I was able to do more. You know, like I was skating every day, and I skated Fowler a lot. Mm-hmm. I'd hit that on the way home, mm-hmm. and I go to Old Fourth Ward a lot, and then I sprained my ankle. I sprained my ankle stepping off of my skateboard at Pickneyville. You know, good old Pickneyville. Stepped backwards and just rolled it. And
like a nothing, and then there's your ankle.
I wasn't even doing a trick. I think I came up front side on the coping, mm-hmm. stopped, and I was thinking about going back. I was like, I already stopped, so I'm just gonna step off my board
and pick it up. And that's what
I stepped off like backwards into the transition, and it rolled into the transition. So a lot of weight went into it. I rolled it really bad.
Oy.
And then like a month later, I was like, I gotta start skating again. So I went to Fowler, and I was doing like slow roll-ins into the teacup bowl, mm-hmm. just straight in, and my trucks hung up. And the weird thing was, I like rolled my ankle, like on the my board was hung up on the transition, mm-hmm. like this, and it just stopped. And I rolled my ankle right there, and then I went like face first into the bottom.
What? So you were rolling in over coping or rolling in through the roll-in?
Slow rolling over coping.
Okay, I was gonna say because I was like,
what?
Hung
up.
Okay.
And that was a month after the bad sprain. And then after that, I lost it. I lost so much. I think I took 9 months off, and I lost most of my tricks. And then since then, I've only been skating like about once a week.
But I put together a street board. I've been working on the board, like making it turn just right and everything. And I'm like, all right, it's a popsicle. And I'm like, I'm gonna go to Fowler, which, yes, guys, that's going to be my home park. I think it's going to be Fowler.
Right, that's the one.
Because, like, I just go there and I just love the park. And
I mean, you're killing it over there. I think you're killing it. Like, I see you doing, like, little aerials, and I'm like, man, I need to try. I don't want to get too advanced. Like, I don't want to get into where it becomes dangerous. You know, like, I keep hurting myself. I've rolled my ankles, like, 100 times.
I can't. You know what I'm about to tell you? Because here's the thing. Because like when I first like kind of started rolling around again, I was like, I'll just do some kick flips in the parking lot. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No, I'll go to the skate park and just roll around a little bit.
That's what you always tell yourself, right?
No, then I'll drop in. I'm gonna just like whatever. And it's like I can't do anything like just a little bit. And it's like my personality, whether it be music, art,
right,
skateboard, cycling. It's like anything that I ever got into, I just go all go for it.
Yeah.
And so like when I was like starting to skateboard, and it took a few years, so it was maybe a little bit slow, but like, you know, where I wasn't skating a whole lot. Right. But what I tell people, because they're like, you're pretty good. I go, well, dude, like I'm talking about from every day of my life, or from one age to another age, to like a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I think I told my dad the other day, it's almost like riding a bike. Like if you were to skate more and more, you would start picking up tricks and picking up tricks. So that's Morning Coffee at the Bill. I really thank you for coming out, explaining to me about Merving, talking about a little bit of skateboarding. That's for sure.
I appreciate you having me over, man. I really do.
Yeah, that's so rad. And maybe in the future, although we're a completely different type of band, we could play a show.
I mean, we play with a lot of punk bands.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Thanks,
all right,
man.
buddy.
All right.
Thank you.